Hey, what's up, nerds? It's Paul at Radio Free Hammer Hall. Today we are going to start our deep dive into the new Slaves to Darkness Battletome. And with this one, we're going to start off with a really basic element of the Slaves to Darkness Battletome, and that is your Marks of Chaos. So we're going to go through what the actual marks do, as well as some of the other associated abilities that are in War Scrolls and things like that. So most of your Slaves to Darkness units have the Mark of Chaos keyword. And what this does is allow you to select one of 5 Chaos marks to give to the unit. So that is KHORNE, NURGLE, TZEENTCH, SLANNESH, and UNDEVIDED. Now, there are also a bunch of units that have a keyword already on them. The majority of those are actually undivided. That is, pretty much all of your cultist units are undivided. And there's a variety of other things. You have your Gaunt Summoners that are TZEENTCH, your Mutileth Vortex Beast that is also TZEENTCH, and the Slaughter Brute, which is KHORNE. And then a few other things that are all undivided as well. All of these have special abilities directly attached to them, and you can actually mix and match these things throughout your army. You don't have to pick one mark to go on all of your units. You select it for each one individually, and you're selecting your mark at your list building level. When you have the Mark of Chaos ability, and it's not just something on the War Scroll. So you have to commit to that ahead of time, but it really helps you kind of build your list and tailor it to what you want to do. All of these kind of have a theme to them that is, flavorfully very guided by what the different chaos marks do, what the different chaos gods are all about. And then Undivided, which is just kind of people either out for glory or not worshiping any particular chaos god, or, Archeon, who maybe he just kind of worships himself. Something like that, anyway. And I think that is basically it on the basics. Fun note on this, I think from what I've observed, everything in the book has either the Mark of Chaos keyword or has one of the Chaos God marks pre-baked into the War Scroll. Now, there is one notable exception to that I have noted, and that is the Horns of Hashut unit. They don't have either of those. They don't have a God mark, and they don't have the Mark of Chaos keyword, and I don't believe that is actually a mistake. They are worshippers of Hashut, who is a miner's chaos god, so not included in the main pantheon of 4 chaos gods. But, we know that other chaos gods do exist, including the Great Horned Rat and, Hashut being one of those other minor gods. So, as far as I have noticed, that's the only one. But I thought that was just a cool little note about the Horns of Hashut, just to, I don't know, thought they were kind of interesting. Moving right along. So other than just choosing a Mark of Chaos when you are building your list, or having one already on your War Scroll, there's a couple of ways to manipulate your God marks. Legion of the First Prince, that is one of your subfactions. That lets you take one of your undivided units in each of your hero phases and give them an additional chaos mark on top of being undivided until your next hero phase. The Idolater Lord, that lets you take your undivided cultist units and give them a different mark, and that mark just has to match your Idolater Lord, and that is your general, who has the Idolater Lord command trait. And then we have Archaon, who at the start of the game, he gets to choose an additional Chaos mark, and that is after setup. That's not included in your list. So he's always got the Undivided mark, and then he gets to choose an additional one at the start of the game. It's a cool little bit of flexibility he has, although you're probably going to have like something in mind with how you want to run him off the top. So I don't know how much that really is going to matter. Moving right along, let's jump into the actual Chaos marks themselves, and we will start with Undivided. Now, this one was really uninteresting in the old Slaves to Darkness book, but they've really kind of spruced this thing up and made it an interesting choice. Although I don't know how like competitive it's necessarily going to be. As we go through this, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about here. But it's certainly fun, interesting, cool, and it's certainly worth checking out. So the general ability you have for your Undivided units, you've got everything that is an Undivided Mortal or Ogroid unit that isn't unique gains the Eye of the Gods keyword. Now, Eye of the Gods, that is something that is going to get a whole other video on its own that I have coming down the pipeline. I've got a lot of that prepped already, actually. I've had like, I don't know, creative ADD, trying to decide what things to do. Like, I've just been loving this new Slaves Battletome, and I've just been starting to like make spreadsheets and pick things apart and analyze stuff, and it's just been all over the place. So I'm trying to kind of focus down and actually make some videos. And shout out real quick to all of the people that voted in that poll that I had put out earlier today, to give me some guidance on what people are actually looking for new videos, like what I should prioritize. Anyway, so rolling on the Eye of the Gods table, that is giving you a random buff. There's a variety of different things for your units that are not heroes. You roll one die on the Eye of the Gods table, and there's, obviously like 6 different things that you can get from that roll. And then for your heroes with the Eye of the Gods keyword, you get to re-roll one of your dice when rolling on the Eye of the Gods table for them, which gives you a little bit of flexibility and the ability to try and manipulate which ability you get from the Eye of the Gods table. Again, it's random, and obviously some are better than others, but there's only one that's really bad, and it's on Snake Eyes. So it's rolling on the Eye of the Gods table is not bad. And rolling on your units that are not heroes, there's actually nothing bad on there. Like, the worst thing that can happen is that your roll does nothing. Now, as far as what triggers rolling on the Eye of the Gods table, that is killing heroes and taking control of objectives that were previously held by your opponent. There's also some other abilities that will allow you to get rolls on the Eye of the Gods table. Your Chaos Chosen, they get to roll on the Eye of the Gods table at the beginning of the game. There's a spell that lets you roll on the Eye of the Gods table for a unit with that keyword. So there's some abilities and ways to get it. But that's what we got there. So this is, on base level, the Mark of Chaos for Undivided doesn't actually do anything right off the rip. It's going to be triggered by the ability to roll in the Eye of the Gods table. So your units are going to have to do something first to actually get that roll. You have a command ability that is available to your undivided units that gives them +1 to wound for melee attacks against heroes and monsters. Your Demon Prince. So the Demon Prince War Scroll has 5 different heroic actions that align to what Chaos Mark the Demon Prince has. And the one for Undivided, the heroic action gives him strike first until the end of that turn. Your Ensorcelled Banners, the one for Undivided units, lets you roll 2 dice on the Eye of the Gods table and pick one of the 2 dice for the unit with the banner. So it's a nice little bit of manipulation that you have available to you. Again, like your chosen get to just roll at the beginning of the game. So, throwing this banner on a unit of chosen is probably going to be pretty good. Your Chaos War Shrine, depending on the mark that the Chaos War Shrine gets, it will have a different prayer, and the prayer can only target other units that have the same Chaos mark. So for Undivided, the prayer has an answer value of 3 and a range of 18 inches. You pick a friendly Undivided unit in range, and when you have models from that unit flee to Battle Shock, you only use half as many models as you ordinarily would. Other things going on in here. Other units with abilities, the Centurion Marshal. So when he issues the rally command to an undivided unit, you return models on a roll of 5 or 6 instead of just 6, which is definitely pretty strong. That is, like, if you're going to be running an undivided unit, or an undivided army rather, I feel like the Centurion Marshal would definitely be a really strong addition. And then your Damned Legions, the Legion of the First Prince, as we had mentioned before, it lets you get another Chaos mark in addition to Undivided for one of your Undivided units until your next hero phase. So, really, Undivided is mostly about that Eye of the Gods table, and mostly about Eye of the Gods. The War Shrine is blunting Battle Shock, although I'm not sure. My wife is calling me while I'm making a video. What am I doing? She just totally messed me up. So, oh my God, she's calling me again. Where is it? I am making a video. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, she just keeps sending me messages. This is what happens when you record stuff live instead of pre-recording and editing and stuff like that. Little things like this are just kind of end up in there. They're gonna stay because my life is chaos and comedy, and that's you guys just get a little window into that, a little bit of the nonsense in here with me. So that's Undivided. I think Undivided thematically is cool. I like the angle that they're doing with it, but because so much of this has to do with like rolling on the Eye of the Gods table, I don't know. Like it's leaning into randomness and letting you roll dice more for buffs. On the surface, it doesn't really do anything. So I don't know. Definitely not my favorite mark, although I definitely see where this could be fun to do. Just not for me. All right. KHORNE. Now, right off the rip, what I am going to mention about KHORNE is that of the 4 God Marks for your Chaos units. KHORNE is the one that actually has a lot of interaction with units from the KHORNE Battletome. The other 3 Chaos Gods, they are all newer Battletomes, and they've changed the way things are keyworded and cross-referenced in the books, so that it's triggering almost exclusively on the Battletome keyword rather than the Godmark keyword. But being that the KHORNE book is super old at this point, there's a bunch of stuff in that book that is targeting either KHORNE or KHORNE mortals. So it gives you this little opportunity to get away with pulling in some allies and coalition units that will give you some additional buffs that are not in this Battletome. Now, I would caution people about running out and spending a bunch of money on additional models for their army to try and get more of these buffs, because like I can say with like 99% certainty that whenever a new KHORNE Battletome drops, all of that's going away. Now, when are we going to get a new KHORNE Battletome? I mean, I would say, again, almost certainly within the next year, probably less than that, maybe within like the next 3 to 6 months. So, by the time, like if you're just starting an army and by the time you buy it all, build it all, get it all painted, KHORNE book could very well be out and dash your plans. Anyway, what does the KHORNE mark actually do in the Slaves to Darkness Battletome? So, when your units with the KHORNE mark charge, they get +1 attack to all of their melee weapons in that combat phase. So that is very strong, especially when you combine it with the other things where you get additional benefits for charging. So that is your Varangard and your Chaos Knights in particular, as well as a couple of the heroes. You're getting extra rend and extra damage from charging with them already. And then you've got these extra attacks from the KHORNE mark. So that's just amplifying that even further. So you really can get some very explosive charge damage from having KHORNE marked Knights and Varangard. You have a command ability in addition to that. So you use it at the start of your charge phase, and you target one of your units, and you roll a die at after that unit completes a charge on a 2+, it'll do D3 mortal wounds to a unit within an inch of the unit that made the charge. So it's basically giving you impact hits on the charge. So it's, again, adding more damage on top for those charging units. Now, the tricky part with this is that this is a command ability that is triggering in the charge phase. So you're not going to be able to use the forward to victory command on that unit if they should happen to fail the charge, because you've already targeted them with a command ability in that charge phase. So it's a little bit tricky. You've got to set up reliable charges. Thankfully, almost all of your units are getting +1 to charge from their War Scroll. You've got a spell that lets you charge on 3d6. And for the time being, you can also get buffs from a Bloodstoker. So your charges are not like unreliable to begin with, but that is something that you definitely need to be aware of and think about when you are using that particular command. So your Demon Prince heroic action, it lets him heal a wound for every model he kills this turn. That's pretty cool. It is definitely really thematic. Your Ensorcelled Banner gives you +1 to wound on that unit. It's just like a flat ability, +1 to wound all the time. Again, super good. And then your Chaos War Shrine, answer value 3, range 18 inches. That unit gets +1 to charge rolls. So again, that's really pushing you in that direction of the ABCs of Age of Sigmar. Always be charging. So KHORNE, always be charging. That's what KHORNE's all about. Get that blood for the Blood God and those skulls for the Skull Throne. Up next, we've got TZEENTCH. This is far and away my least favorite Chaos mark. We'll see why. For Darktron in the chat, can Archaon get any mark? Yes, he can. He has the Undivided mark all the time. And then at the beginning of the game, you can give him a Chaos mark in addition to being Undivided. And it's important to note that it's not in your list. It's something that you choose after setup. So you get to see what your opponent's army is before you choose which Chaos mark it is. Very useful, nice flexibility. So Archaon is definitely really strong in here. Okay, so TZEENTCH. Every unit with the TZEENTCH mark ignores spell effects on a 6+. That's really not exciting. Like, there's literally at least 3 armies where that ability does absolutely nothing because the armies don't have wizards. So, and then there's a whole bunch of other armies that really don't have spells that are going to be targeting your units, or if they are going to be targeting your units, it's not really doing anything all that exciting. And note that it's not like negating mortal wounds or damage from the spell. It's rolling for the spell effect itself. So, you know, if you have a spell that is doing, you know, a bunch of mortal wounds to a unit, instead of like rolling a die for each mortal wound and preventing them on 6s like a ward save, this is you roll 1 die and then on a 6 you get no mortal wounds from that spell. So considerably more swingy. Really not that useful. Your TZEENTCH wizards all know a spell with casting value of 6, range of 9. You pick a TZEENTCH unit that is on the battlefield and visible, and then you get to pick that unit up and move it within range of the caster and more than 9 inches away from enemy units, and then that unit cannot move in the next movement phase. Limited usefulness because, you know, you can use it to pull units out of combat. The problem is that you have to set them up near the wizard, and your wizards in this army are mostly kind of squishy. So you don't really want to have them up near anything. So you're like pulling them, like you're pulling them potentially like, you know, totally across the board. But like, what are you doing with that? Why are you doing with that? So very situational. I really am not that convinced of the power of this. I know some people have been talking this up and really like it, but I know I don't. Your Demon Prince heroic action for the remainder of that turn, your Demon Prince ignores spell effects on a roll of 2+, and then he can also attempt to cast any spell from the Lore of the Damned as if he were a wizard that turn. The second half of that is really super powerful. The Lore of the Damned is actually pretty solid. And so just being able to dial up whatever spell you want in any of your hero phases to be cast by your Demon Prince is definitely pretty strong. The problem is that one of the things that you really want to do with magic in this army is use the other heroic action from your battle traits that lets you roll your magic on 3d6. Now, note, not the old Tzeentch roll 3d6 and take the two highest. It's just 3d6. So you can roll an 18. But because the Demon Prince is taking up its heroic action to be able to cast this spell to begin with, you can't double up and use another heroic action to get the 3d6 roll. Your Ensorcelled Banner gives you a 4-up ward against missile weapons for that unit. Again, like the spell ignore abilities that you have here, this could just be a 100% blank against several different armies. And even among the armies that have shooting weapons, there's actually a pretty small number of them where those shooting attacks are actually all that threatening whatsoever. So, and this Ensorcelled Banner is just doing it to one unit. So all your opponent has to do is just shoot a different unit. So I don't know. Like I'm just not excited about the Ensorcelled Banner. The Chaos War Shrine Prayer, again, answer value 3, range of 18 inches. You pick a friendly Tzeentch unit in range, and you subtract 1 from wound rolls that target that unit until your next hero phase. This one is actually pretty solid. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than, like, it's pretty solid. Not going to say that's bad. It oddly doesn't really have very much synergy with the rest of what's going on with your Tzeentch marks. So, I don't know. Your other stuff that is there, your Gaunt Summoners both have the Silvered Portal ability, which lets you set up a non-monster Tzeentch unit in reserve. And then at the end of any of your movement phases, you can set up that unit within 9 inches of the Gaunt Summoner and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So it kind of lets you like deep strike through a Gaunt Summoner with whatever unit. Again, the problem here is that whole like 9 inches away from enemies thing, and there's just nothing that your 3d6 charge spell, like the unit has to be on the battlefield in the hero phase in order to get hit with that spell. You do have like that built-in +1 to charge on a lot of your units. So like that helps a little bit, but I don't know. Like overall, I am very not impressed with the Tzeentch mark. It doesn't feel to me to be really cohesive other than being like broadly defensive. But your defense is, pulling stuff out of combat and ignoring spell effects. The -1 to wound from the War Shrine is actually really good. Setting up something out of reserve, like, I don't know. Like, the fact that your Gaunt Summoner on disc is really fast and flies, that I think has some potential to make this interesting. But, you've got to land that charge on an 8 to make that happen, and that's going to be tricky to do. Not that reliable. So let me just check comments here. Yes, Archaon can use the NURGLE mark, which is the next one we are going to be talking about. NURGLE. Now, I am a fan of all things NURGLE, and if we covered up the fact that this particular chaos mark is NURGLE, this would probably still be my favorite one out of them. I think this is just broadly really strong. Your mark ability is just subtract 1 from wound rolls that target your units. Army-wide. Well, not army-wide, but on all of your NURGLE marked units. Now, for Tzeentch, that's a prayer from the War Shrine, and it only targets 1 unit. NURGLE, whole army. You get a command that can be used by your NURGLE units, and you use it at the start of the combat phase, and then at the end of the combat phase, you roll a die for each enemy unit within 3 inches of that unit, and on a 3-up, it does D3 mortal wounds to that unit. So not, the KHORNE one does mortal wounds on a 2+, so that is a little bit better, but this can do it to multiple units. And that's also within 3 inches, not just within 1 inch. You don't have to charge that turn. And, so I personally like this one better. This is doing like some extra kicker mortal wounds. The downside is this is a combat phase command ability, so you're not going to be able to use your all-out attack or all-out defense on that particular unit. So, this is potentially getting you some extra damage, though. But that damage coming at the end of the combat phase, as opposed to like at the beginning of the combat phase or when you complete a charge, the timing is less optimal, but it's not like this is bad. The downside here is that you have to spend the command point before you know that there are even going to be any enemy units left after that combat to get hit with the mortal wounds. So, like, you can potentially spend a command point and then just completely whiff on this even potentially doing any mortal wounds because you just kill whatever units in combat. So, tricky, but it's not like this is bad. It's just, it's situational. Your Demon Prince heroic action. Your opponent cannot make ward rolls when they're within 3 inches of that Demon Prince. Now, this against many armies is completely useless. In the situations where you can use this, this is crippling. And ironically, like, this is so good against a Magic of Nurgle army because you have that army-wide 5-up. Good against death. They all have army-wide 6-up. And then you have your sprinkling of other units throughout the game that have wards. This is just a heroic action, and Demon Princes are not bad on their own. So having an ability on a Demon Prince that is situational but really, really good when you hit that situation, I think is not a bad thing. So Demon Prince, I think, is a solid pick here to get the NURGLE mark as well. Your Ensorcelled Banner. Now, this one got an FAQ already. So what it has been changed to is that you worsen the Rend characteristic for attacks that target the unit with the banner. Again, this is very, very, very powerful. For all intents and purposes, there's so much Rend in this game right now. This is basically just giving the unit +1 save, right? So it's just making a unit incredibly tanky. And then the amount of stuff in this army that just has a 3-up save base, this is just really good. And remember, if you're marking them NURGLE and getting that Ensorcelled Banner, you're also -1 to be wounded. So it's you're going to have a really, really tanky unit. Probably going to look like a unit of 20 Chaos Warriors that are going to go stand on an objective and just say, fuck you, I'm not moving. Excuse me. Especially if you're in Host of the Everchosen and you can rally them on a 5-up. Super good. And then your Chaos War Shrine Prayer, answer value 3, range 18 once again, and it gives the unit +1 to wound. There's just not a lot of +1 to wound around in the game, so it's a nice non-redundant buff that you can give to the unit. So a little bit of extra offensive power. Now, all of this stuff from NURGLE put together, what is it doing? It's going to make your units really durable. You can use the command ability to do some kicker mortal wounds at the end of combat, and the Demon Prince, that's cutting through enemy wards, and then your War Shrine is giving you +1 to wound. So you have a little bit of extra offense and a little bit of extra defense. Well, I would say a lot of extra defense, really. Very good overall. Like, this is just super strong. If you're running a mixed mark list, like your anvil type units and your chaff units, they're going to be NURGLE. If you don't really care that much about like offensive power for a unit, it wants the NURGLE mark. And again, if you're going to do a mixed mark army, like your stuff that is going to move up the field and charge, you probably want to be KHORNE. So I think there's going to be a lot of Christmas Slaves to Darkness armies out there where you have a mix of KHORNE and NURGLE. Finally, we have SLANNEsh. So SLANNEsh is all about the usual like speed kills sort of thing. Your mark ability is just +1 to run and charge rolls, and then you get a command ability that lets you run and charge with that unit in this turn. So like it makes your units really fast. Your Demon Prince's heroic action gives him +1 attack on all of his melee weapons if the unit charges this turn. Your Ensorcelled Banner does the same thing for the unit with that banner. You know, just gets extra melee attacks when they charge. And then your Chaos War Shrine Prayer, that is giving you a charge on 3d6. And again, not 3d6 drop the lowest, just 3d6. It's also increasing your charge eligibility range to 18 inches. Now, let's just do some quick math on how fast your units can go with a SLANNEsh mark and the various different other abilities going on. Let's say it's a unit of Chaos Knights. They move 10. They got +1 to the charge from their banner in the unit. The mark gives them +1 to run and charge. The command ability lets them run and charge. You can give them the banner to get extra attacks when they charge, and then the War Shrine Prayer, and also a spell that lets you charge on 3d6. So in the movement phase, you can run them. So you're moving 10 plus d6 plus 2. Just there. So you're going a minimum of 13 inches up to 19 inches. Then you're going to make a charge on 3d6. So that is going to be between 3 and 18 inches on the charge. So what did we say a moment ago? That was between 13 to 18 inches in the movement phase, and then 3 to 8, or I'm sorry, you're also getting the +1 to the charge, so you're getting that extra buff in the charge phase. Hold on, I messed up my math, because you're only getting +1 in the movement phase from just the mark ability. The banner is just +1 to charge. So you're going to move 12 to 15 inches. What am I saying here? 12 to 17 inches. God, it's been a day. Anyway, so 12 to 17 inches in the movement phase, and then at least 5 inches up to 21 inches when you charge. And then if it's got the banner, you're getting extra attacks on the charge. So like you're moving just across the whole table. You make units really, really fast with SLANNEsh. Now the question is, are they gonna punch as hard as you want them to? And I don't know. like Slaanesh is definitely a really good mark. It is not my personal play style. I definitely, would probably just run all NURGLE marks myself, because that's just what I like. I think after that, I would probably go with KHORNE, then SLANNESH, then UNDEVIDED, and TZEENTCH, I think, at the bottom. Now, all that being said, play what you like. The fun thing about the different chaos marks in this book is that it takes one book, one set of war scrolls, and lets you tailor your army to 5 different playstyles. At least 5 different playstyles, right? Like Slaanesh is all about speed. NURGLE is largely about durability. KHORNE is about charging and spilling that blood for the blood god. UNDEVIDED is all about, seeking glory for your units and your heroes. And TZEENTCH is clearly about being very confused and not really sure of what you're doing and getting kind of crappy buffs and nothing all that interesting. I'm sure that I'm going to be proven wrong about TZEENTCH. There is going to be something that somebody figures out and is like, TZEENTCH is just like the best. And I am just totally missing that. But I think like this army is just really strong overall. You can make interesting stuff happen with TZEENTCH. I don't think any of these marks are really like bad. Like they're not like doing anything negative to you. UNDEVIDED is just, I think, unreliable because you're doing a lot with like the Eye of the God stable, which is just like all about getting random buffs. But I think it's different play styles for different people, and whatever you're into, I think you get something cool with a different chaos mark. And I think in terms of like competitive armies, if your shtick is you want to just play whack and just go for winning tournaments, like when this shows up on top tables of tournaments, I can almost guarantee it's going to be a mixed mark list, with like a block of Chaos Warriors marked NURGLE, and then like other stuff marked like Slaanesh and KHORNE, depending on which direction people go in, like how they end up thinking it's going to be more powerful, or their personal play style. But your aggressive stuff is going to be either a TZEENTCH mark or a Slaanesh mark, and your anvil-y, chaffy defensive stuff is going to be NURGLE marked. So yeah, that's the basics on these chaos marks. And I mean, I say basics like this is like a 45-minute video on the basics of chaos marks, but yeah, I don't know. I really like this a lot. I think it's really fun. I'm very happy that the NURGLE mark is both good and does things that I like. So my large chaos mark converted Slaves to Darkness army is not going to just sit on the shelf. It's going to get pulled out and actually played as, what it says on the tin. So that's going to be it for now, guys. I've got a whole bunch more stuff. If there are any particular topics that you want to see on either the Slaves to Darkness Battletome or other things, I've got like a whole bunch of ideas for videos, and a lot of things are just like swirling around. I'm trying to decide. I'm trying to stay focused. But if there's something you want to see, give me some guidance. Let me know what you want to see down in the comments, or shoot me a message somewhere, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or Carrier Pigeon or Smoke Signals, whatever you're into. maybe a little telepathic message. Come find me in person somewhere. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling at this point and being nonsensical and silly. It's been fun as always. And I'll talk to you guys later. Now I get to hit the end broadcast button, and we're going to sit here for like a minute until it's